some of these up in the template that I showed this morning. I'll just repeat it here, sharing the screen. So following the Chittanupassana section of the Satipatthana Sutta, we have the basic unwholesome states of mind connected with lust, with hatred or aversion. And when we say lust, we mean desire, any kind of unwholesome desire, craving, attachment, and so forth. Mind associated with hatred, aversion, anger, ill will, irritation, and so on. Mind with delusion, especially the cynical doubt, pride, conceit, vanity, and so on. Then the cramped mind, a tight, tense, rigid mind, or a dull and drowsy mind. The scattered mind, distracted, agitated, restless. The concentrated mind, so that's the desirable state in which the mind becomes stable and well focused. But the opposite of that is the unconcentrated mind, the drifting mind. So whenever those states of mind arise, we recognize them, identify them. And also in terms of time, we have the mind dwelling on the past, either with sadness, sorrow, grief, or the happy mind, joyful mind, the mind and mind projecting into the future, imagining the future, sometimes with desire, craving, and hope, sometimes with fear, worry, anxiety, or just idle imaginings and idle expectations of the future. So those are like some of the states that can arise. Probably many, many other states of mind can arise, which are not identified here. But whatever arises, when it becomes strong enough, you identify it and drop it, and then return to focus on the word mind, mind, mind. And in the image that I used in the morning, we can see this focusing on the word mind is like using, there's a plot of ground, and we know that deep within that ground there's a very precious, a mine of precious jewels. And we want to get those precious jewels, and we use the shovel to dig away the earth, dig away the soil to get to the precious jewels. The shovel is the word mind, and the dirt that we're shoveling away, those are all of the accumulated thought formations, emotional hang-ups, and complex and psychological complexes that we're trying to work through. And just like if you're digging the ground to get to the jewels beneath, sometimes you'll come across heavy rocks, which have to be moved away, sometimes layers of dense clay, which you have to work through, sometimes, I don't know, skeletons that you have to remove. But keep on digging, and then you'll eventually come to the jewel deep down, the jewel which is the Vimutti Dhatu, the realm of liberation, the Bodhi Dhatu, the realm of enlightenment. Okay, so that's a quick review of the practice. And so if there's any questions, and the way to pose the question for those not yet familiar, on the Zoom panel, the bottom line, the bottom row, there's one feature called reactions. You click on that, and then you see a number of icons, and you'll see one is called raise hand, and that's the one you click when you want to pose a question. Okay, and then I'll take the questions. Did I see the hand? Okay, let me go down. Okay, now I can see. Okay, we start with Gita, then you unmute. You have to unmute.
Thank you, Bhante, for teaching us. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Bhante, I find this is sort of new. I'm aware of this technique of meditation, but I have created sort of a habit energy that I run back to the breath. I find that I'm saying mind, mind, but my mind is going to the breath, breath, breath.
Yeah.
And then if I'm not in the breath, I'm in the Dhamma. I'm contemplating 12 links for foundation of mindfulness, dependent origination, the three Dhamma seals. So it's I like, and I see myself going there,
Yeah.
but it's because my mind has been trained in the past several years
Yeah.
to go into the breath and to go into the dharma and to investigate and
Yeah.
contemplate them. So it's kind of hard. So I'm not sure, like you said, to drop it and
Yeah.
then say go back to the mind, or maybe make a deal with the mind and say for the next 10 minutes or 40 minutes we're not going to run to the breath, we're
Yeah.
not going to go to the
Yeah.
dhamma, we're just going to
Yeah.
do the mind. Would that be like what I should do, or what is your
Wh-
recommendation?
Whatever works to get the breath out of mind.
That's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah. But also don't forget that I say that this is if the mind gets scattered when you're trying to do contemplation of the mind, then you can turn. It's okay to turn to the breath for a few minutes just to sort of collect the mind, but then you drop the breath and you
Go
bring up
back to observing.
the word the word mind, 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 and then you focus again on the mind.
Okay, Bhante. Thank you.
After a while, if you do this enough, then when you should be doing mindfulness of breathing, the word
I'm gonna
mind
go
will
back.
come up, and then you'll think, how do I get rid of the word mind and
Yeah.
get back on the breath? So it's a matter of just developing a new habit.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, Kenneth? Kenneth, unmute. You have to unmute.
Yes,
Okay.
Bhante. Yeah, finally. Bhante, this is Kenneth. Yes, I was able to unmute. Bhante, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. So Bhante, so I'm trying to, kind of, piece this together. So Bhante, we are following the Satara Satipatthana types of meditation here. Like, are we following like Kaya Anupassana, Vedana Anupassana, Chitta Anupassana, Dhamma Anupassana? Is that what we're doing?
Well, now we're doing just the Chittanupassana section, the contemplation of the mind.
Got
I
it.
didn't do separately Vedananupassana, contemplation of feeling, but some of the states of mind that we're actually contemplating are closely connected with feeling. Like, of course, sadness, sorrow, grief is, on the one
Mm-hmm.
hand, you could see it as a state of mind, but technically it would be classified as a feeling because it's a painful feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And the happy, joyful experiences that can arise are states of mind, but the state of mind is determined by the happy or pleasant feelings. So that is a Vedana feeling.
Understood. So Bhante, so everything before today's session where we, looked at the word mind and, look at the mind, looking at the mind,
Yeah.
before that, everything else was Kaya Anupassana. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah. We were doing, of course, mindfulness of breathing, walking meditation is a kind of body
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
contemplation. And then the full body awareness, of course, is contemplation of the body.
Thank you, Bhante. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Okay. Joyce.
Yes. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, you're on mute. Okay, you're unmuted.
Yeah, they did it ahead of time. It made it much
Okay.
quicker.
Okay.
So this morning's practice, I was the poster child for drowsiness in terms of mind state and going into drowsiness and then into kind of dreamlike states and then
Yeah.
trying to bring it back. So I guess the question one is how to work with that mind state, because it's clearly very hard to stay focused when you keep getting drowsy. And the repetition of mind almost became like a drone, and I'm trying to imagine it in bright colors or, fireworks, which was becoming very conceptualized. But it was like, how do I keep this from, putting me into a trance? So how do you work with that state of mind?
Yeah, dealing with drowsiness is a difficult problem. But okay, this is maybe what you can do is to give yourself a challenge. So the challenge means that you have to be alert, especially alert. And the challenge is to see the arising of the word mind when you're mentally formulating it, and try to see where it arises from. Keep on looking, and not just at the word mind itself, but to see, try to pinpoint exactly where it arises. And again, a little simile for this. It's like a cat, like there's a house with a little mouse hole, and the cat is crouched in front of the mouse hole, waiting to see the mouse peek its head out from the mouse hole. And so the cat is completely intent on watching the mouse hole, waiting for the little head to peek out from the mouse hole so that the cat could pounce on it and grab the mouse. And so you are sitting there watching, not just mentally repeating the word mind, 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 and looking at the fully formulated word, but watching to see how that word arises. So you're looking in that way, you're going sort of into subtler levels of the mind.
I was trying to watch the letters being written out, letter by letter. But I think what I'm hearing is that we have to avoid having the word formulate as an automatic pilot. We need to be very conscious of bringing forth the word mind. In general, I mean, I had the best night's sleep I've had in a long time, but I was so drowsy. Is that also just a factor of a retreat, that you kind of hit a wall? If you're not,
that's a common experience.
Okay.
So don't think it's something unique to yourself.
Thank you, Bhante.
And often what is advised is a way of dispelling drowsiness. And if you want, you could do this. You don't have to remain in the sitting position, but what you can do is get up and do a few rounds of quick walking, rapid walking, but doing it mindfully, not breaking the step up, but just doing right step, left step, right step, left step. Okay. Do it like 1 or 2 minutes, then come back to the seat.
Thank you so much for that, Bhante, and thank you so much for your lightheartedness with all of this. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next would be Ian. Yeah, you unmute.
Yes, Bhante.
Okay, now you're okay.
Thank you. Okay. I kind of started out the retreat against that wall that Joyce just referred to. I was very drowsy for like the first 2 days. And then today, while sitting and doing the meditation on the mind, my mind was very clear and calm, and I ran into surprisingly few distractions, because I usually have very many. Yeah. But I was having a hard time with the whole thing. I think you may have just given me a really good thing to work with the idea of trying to find where the word mind originates. Yeah. Because I'm a very visual thinker, and I was seeing the word mind very vividly, and I was seeing the bubble machine, and frankly, I couldn't figure out how that related to anything. And then I started seeing the word mind as a shovel, but I was digging in the earth, not the mind, really. And that, I think I've watched too many mafia movies that just started bringing up bad images. And so, I needed to kind of ask you, I'm very familiar with what the mind does, but it's very difficult for me to conceive of mind itself, what it is.
Yeah.
And so any tips you might have for plowing into mind instead of plowing into conceptualizations about, digging one's own grave and all that terrible stuff. Oh, yes. And the digging. I like that image. It worked for me, but I didn't have any concept of how far I had to dig.
Yeah.
So that was difficult for me.
Okay, as far as definition of mind, I'm not going to try to define it. It's just something that we know what it is by our own experience because we have a mind. Okay, so I won't try to define that. And digging is just an image. And it's the image that I use to show how we get rid of all of the little stray, half-articulated thoughts, little bubbles of emotion that might arise. We just, by using the word mind, and focusing on that word, we just push them aside, just like with the shovel, you push the soil away till you go deeper and deeper.
Okay.
And so, and then
all right, thank you.
And this often will happen after doing this for a long time. Then the mind just can become really just concentrated on observing itself, and then sort of thought formations subside and emotional upsurges sort of subside, and it just seems like mind is, staring at the mind itself.
Right. I would just like it to be, I want to make a transition from staring at the word mind and a visual representation of the word mind to staring at the mind itself.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'll use what you suggested.
We use the word mind in order as a tool for looking at the mind. And then that tool will bring up sort of the strata, the sort of underlying strata of mental thought formations and mental complexes and so forth. They start coming up to the surface. Then we have to deal with them by dispelling them in one way or another, and then going deeper and deeper. Okay, we have to move on now with the questioning. So this is Lakshman. Okay, you unmute.
Yes, Bhante, thank you.
Okay.
I just want to clarify, when I was doing the regional scanning and the body scanning, I felt the muscle twitching and vibrations and creepy crawlies in some parts of the body. Is that a normal sort of thing, or?
Say again what you felt? The muscle
muscles twitching, the body, some parts, the muscles were twitching, and there were vibrations in the body, and like creepy crawlies in some parts of the body.
Yeah, that's very common. Yeah, that's very common.
Is that common? Is that what we are looking for in this case? Are we looking for that?
I wouldn't say that we're specifically looking for anything. Well, actually, we're just looking to see whatever manifests itself as we're scanning the body. So different things will manifest for different people or at different times, and whatever arises, whatever emerges, one just is aware of it. Sometimes it'll be vibrations, crawlies, switching. If that happens, then you just notice it and go on.
And also, Bhante, when sometimes after I have moved away from, say, the head and then moved on to the rest of the body, I feel these sensations back on the head as well. So should I go back to the head or should I just carry on?
No. Well, if you're sort of scanning through the body, then you keep on going down.
Right.
And not pay attention if sensations become prominent up there. But when you're doing the open awareness of the body as a whole, then wherever sensations become prominent, then you note those sensations.
Okay, Bhante.
But
And
when one is moving
yeah,
sort of the regional scan, then one should be attending to the particular region that one is designated for the scan.
okay. Then one other question is, now this the body scanning, is that to improve the mindfulness, and also is it to understand the sensations that they come and go and the impermanence of the body? Is that what we are looking for?
Yeah, but at this point, I'm not sort of bringing in the theme of impermanence yet, because that would really become, let's say, more prominent on a longer retreat. So now we're
Right.
just sort of getting familiar with the basic technique for contemplating the body as a whole. But
Right.
certainly that is what is bringing to manifestation, is the
Right.
fact that all of these sort of sensations just arise and pass very quickly.
Right. And also these are all external, isn't it? We are looking at the external body. Have we got to look at the internal body parts as well while you're doing that scanning?
We're not looking at individual organs, but
Mm-hmm.
when we go scanning the body, we're taking both the external and the internal, but not
Right.
saying I'm going to experience the sensations in my lungs, in my heart, in my stomach, in my intestines. But we just move through that whole region, like upper torso, lower torso, pelvic region. But we're taking both the inside and outside, but
Okay,
not
thank you,
distinguishing
Bhante.
them. Yeah.
Thank you,
Just,
Bhante. Thank you.
yeah, just taking them as a block, not
Right.
distinguishing. Okay, next, Chua Pair Shan. You have to unmute. Unmute.
Okay, great. Yes, I
Okay.
managed to unmute. Yes. Thank you. Bante, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I could hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bante, for the lovely teachings. For your method on, bring the word mind, it's really very interesting for me because it really feels like chanting. I don't know whether is that correct?
It
And
shouldn't be.
not say
Maybe it
chanting,
seems
more
like
like
chanting, but it's not really chanting.
yeah, so it kind of like back to my own training of like because we do a lot of recitation of the Buddha's name. So I'm
Yeah.
just curious, is this method similar to like is it that you just really have to use the word mind or you can really use any other wholesome wholesome name like the Buddha or
No,
it's just the
no,
word mind?
no. You should use the word mind, because it's not like the Amitabha practice where you're trying to concentrate on the figure of Amitabha Buddha. But here we want to look into the mind itself, and we use the word mind because that sort of directs us back to reflect back on what's going on in the mind.
I see. Okay, great. So the second question is, how does this technique correlate with the Anapanasati? Is it the third tetrad where we try to experience the mind, gladden the mind, and liberate the mind? Is that method correlate with the third tetrad?
Yeah, I'm not taking it up in that way. For people who don't know this, that the third tetrad in the of the 16 steps of Anapanasati is a correlation of contemplation of the mind with the mindfulness of breathing. But here we're following more the Satipatthana Sutta system, where we're not paying attention to the breathing as such, but just focusing on the state of mind.
I see.
So now we're not
Okay.
concerned with the breathing anymore.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much, Bante. Thank you.
Okay. And then next is Tutu, and you unmute.
Hi, Bante. Yesterday I was having a great time and I'm using your sweeping method when I have my legs pain, when I have a baby cat on my legs, things there. Today when I was using your mind, yes, I could follow other minds, but when the pain comes there, should I switch it to that sweeping method things there, or should I just move? So I finally moved my legs only to relieve my.
Yeah. No.
What should I be doing?
Yeah. In this phase, don't go back to the sweeping method. Now we've finished that. Now we're in
Yes.
contemplation of the mind. So if you're getting troublesome pain in the legs, then you can readjust the posture to get a more comfortable posture.
All right. Yes, thank you so much. And the second thing is, in the future, will you be teaching continuation of the meditation teaching in the future?
But just on Saturday mornings, we have
Yes,
Saturday
I did attend.
mornings,
Yes.
and we have from 9:30 to 10:10. Then on Wednesday evening from 7 to 8. And then on Sunday evening, Venerable Mangala guides the online meditation from 7 to 8.
I see. All right.
Okay, I'll take
Thank
one more
you.
question, then we'll have to go into the practice. Other people have their hands raised. We'll have to take them. We could take them in the next question session. Okay, so this is Zhang. Okay. Yeah, you have to unmute. Okay.
Okay. Andy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andy. Sorry, I was not able to change my name into English. I don't know why. Yeah, my name is Wanling, Zhang Wanling.
Okay, yeah, I know.
Quick question about the contemplating on the mind, because I'm still struggling, doing this, because you're talking about trying to focus using the words, the mind. It doesn't, for me, I just couldn't grab how I can do this. So I switched to my native language in Mandarin, in Chinese.
Yeah.
So I'm using the seeing the heart, but then still it's just so vague. It's just like I just cannot grasp how that feels, only a very abstract word. So I try to visualize, to look at my heart, where the heart is.
Yeah.
Looks like it helps a little bit. So I was wondering whether that's going to be helpful, because only the word seeing or the mind is just so abstract for me.
I say the language doesn't matter. If you want to use the word shin rather than mind, then use shin. But what the real purpose is to use the word in order to know what is going on in either in your mind or in the shin, whatever it is. But you know what it is, whether you call it mind or shin or heart, but it is that process of thinking, experiencing, feeling, undergoing emotions. So that is what one is looking into.
Okay. I still have a difficulty even using my native language, seeing, because I try to look at where the heart is in the body. Can I do that? Just to help me visualize the heart, the physical heart.
Yeah, but we're not so focusing on a physical organ in the body. But if you want to, if you can think of the place where the thinking and the motions and occur to be physically situated here, whereas in the West, we say that we're too much in our head. We think of the mind being up here. But most traditional cultures take the mind or heart being here. So it doesn't matter the place of focus, but one should be sort of observing what takes place inside. And it will gain in strength. Of course, it takes the repeated practice and development to become stronger and stronger.
Okay, got you.
I'm
sorry. Because sometimes you're very, very peaceful. Like
very what?
Peaceful, because you have a peace of mind. You don't really feel anything. So is that the mind, the state of the mind?
Yeah. So even if it's peacefulness, it's a state of mind. But don't let that peacefulness turn into a kind of dull, maybe you call this a dull tranquility. because then it can incline towards drowsiness. You want to be peaceful, that's calm and collected, but alert and observant, so that you're watching what is going on.
Okay, so that is correct. Just watching the peacefulness of the mind state.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got you. Thank you, Andy.
Okay, so the other people with questions, just hold them and then we can take them in the next section, because we're going to have to return to the practice now. Okay, so we will do, I have 2:25. Yeah, we'll do another 40-minute session of observing the mind. Okay, so take your congenial meditation position. And I'll give a little guidance at the beginning of the session, then push you off the cliff or push you into the water and let you swim. Okay, so first settle into comfortable but firm sitting posture. Be aware of the whole body in the sitting position. Then we can do a few minutes of anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, just to collect the mind and to build up a little power of concentration. Okay, now we're going to begin the actual Chittanupassana. And so you can bring up into your mind the word, if you're most familiar with English, bring the word mind. Or if some other language, if it's more natural for you in some other language, Chinese, Shin. Or if you know Pali, you could even use the word chitta. But the objective is to use the word, to focus on the word as a way of observing one's own mind. I'll have to continue using the English word mind. And the ideal is just to be able to observe the word mind, 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 to see each mental formulation of it arise, sort of like the bubbles in the bubble fountain. And to dig deeper, you could keep on sort of trying to look to see where the word mind arises from, the origin point of the word mind. And use the focus on that word mind to drop and let go of all of the little thought formations that arise, sort of little bubbles of feelings, emotions, concerns, worries. Just let them all go and just keep on focusing on the word mind, mind, mind. But then more prominent thought formations or emotional formations can arise. And in that case, clearly identify them using the appropriate label, where the thoughts of desire, craving, could be thoughts of aversion, anger, irritation, could be memories which bring sadness, sorrow, or memories that bring joy, happiness. Just identify and let go and come back each time to the mental formulation of the word mind, mind, shin, shin, or chitta, chitta. Okay, continue now on your own. And if the mind gets overrun by too many distracted thoughts, then you can return just for a couple of minutes to Anapanasati. Sharpen the mindfulness by focusing on the breath. Then drop the breath and come back to the direct observation of the mind, using the word mind as the focal device. Okay, you can relax now and end the session in the usual way. Okay, it's 3:07 now. So we'll have a 30-minute period of the walking meditation. And remember now we've added another phase to the step. So now when you do the walking meditation, the 3 phases will be, and each phase begins with the letter P. Picking, this picking up the foot. Pushing, this bringing the foot forward. And then placing, that's putting the foot down. And when you place the foot down, then you pay special attention to the contact sensation of the foot uh, being placed on the floor. And you walk slowly and mindfully along your walking path. When you come to the end, you stop mindfully, standing, then you turn, mindfully turning, then mindful standing, then you walk back and walk fairly slowly at an even pace, distinguishing in each step the 3 phases: picking, pushing, and placing. Okay, so let's start, let's say just 3:10. Let's suppose we're starting at 3:10. So we'll be back in your seat at 3:40, and I will hit the gong at 3:39. Okay, this will be a 30-minute sitting using the same method. And during my own sitting earlier in the afternoon, I found another method to deal with the drowsy mind. It occurred to me, and that is when you're formulating the word mind, what you do is speed it up, make it go very fast, so that you're inwardly verbalizing mind, 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 and you're trying to follow each occurrence of the word mind, to observe each one. And then you're forcing the mind to be very energetic and active. And that might help to dispel the drowsiness. Because I was getting drowsy also in the first sitting. And then just spontaneously, that method occurred to my mind. Okay, so let us settle in. Begin with a few rounds of mindfulness of breathing, and then switch over to directly contemplating the mind, or the heart, or shin, or chitta. Okay, you can relax now, and we will take a break for the tea now. The break from 4:10 to 4:30, and then we'll have the talk and maybe some questions. But the questions in that period will be based on the talk. But before the first evening meditation session at 7 p.m., then I'll put aside another period, maybe 15 minutes, for questions about the meditation method that we've been practicing. Okay, so we can adjourn for the tea break now, and then please be back in your seats at, say, 4:29, so we could start the talk at 4:30. Okay, so is my my voice is coming through okay?
Yes, Bante.
Okay. Okay, so we will begin. So we'll do first the salutation to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I'm going to base this little talk on a little sutta that occurs in the Samyutta Nikaya, in the Deva Putta Samyutta. It's the Buddha's conversations with minor deities. And in the sutta, a young deity named Subrahma comes to the Buddha and he asks the Buddha some questions in the form of verse. In fact, all of these suttas in this chapter take the form of verses, questions posed by the young devas to the Buddha, and the Buddha responds in verses. So in this sutta, the young deva named Subrahma recites a verse. In translation, we have, always worried is this mind, this citta. Always agitated is this mind. Here he uses the word mano, but same meaning, citta mano. So always worried or anxious is this mind. Always agitated is this mind about matters that have not yet arisen and about things that have presently occurred. If there is any relief from worry, any state beyond worry or anxiety, please explain that to me. And you can see that I find it so interesting that here we have a deva, a deity from the heavenly world, coming before the Buddha, and he's explaining or stating just so clearly, so simply, and in a way so poignantly, the core problem at the heart of human existence. And I think we could see this maybe through our practice of Chittanupassana, as we are trying to examine the mind, investigate the mind. We see a lot of these old sort of habit energies come cropping up to the surface in the form of worry about this, worry about that, worry about things that have not yet occurred that we have to do in the future, or regrets about things that have occurred, or sorrow about things that have occurred that we can't change anymore. And so the mind is caught up in this sort of net of worries, anxiety, agitation. We call this agitation. And the worry, the agitation could apply, according to the verse, about things that have not yet arisen. So since we're living in a net of time, we are temporal beings living in time. So we're facing the future. Our minds are always directed to the future. And so when we look ahead to the future, the mind is worried or anxious, distressed about what might lie ahead in the future. And so we always have to plan what we're going to take care of in the future. Oh, I have to do it this way. I have to do it that way. And so even though the events that demand a response have not even yet arisen, not even become manifest, but we're thinking, if this happens, what am I going to do? If that happens, what am I going to do? And so in this way, the mind is sort of whipped up into the state of anxiety, worry, or agitation about things in the future, and then about matters that are current, that have already arisen. Again, we're worried about them, anxious about them. How am I going to handle this task? How am I going to handle that task? Oh, I have to give some classes starting next Saturday. I have to give my regular classes. What text should I take? How am I going to organize my presentation? And I get invited. I have to give a lecture here. This one has sent me an invitation to give a talk. What should I reply? Maybe can I kind of try to avoid it in some way? And so we're always thinking about future things, about present things. Oh, I have these tasks that have to be performed here at the monastery, this or that task. So that is the way the mind works. And there's maybe some of you who have had some acquaintance with philosophy. One of the most prominent German philosophers of the 20th century, his name was Martin Heidegger, and his early major work was called Being and Time. It's like a 400, 500 page volume written in very thick, dense philosophical language. With a kind, even in English translation, it's quite opaque because Heidegger invents many new words in German by combining other words. And in this major work of his, Being and Time, he raises the question, sort of the question that's the driving theme of this treatise, is the question, what is the essential feature of human existence? What is at the core, at the heart of human existence? What does it mean to be a human being? And what he identifies as sort of the distinctive characteristic of human existence is what he calls, or what's translated by the word care, that we are always weighed down by cares, by concerns. And the reason that the mind is always saddled by care, by concern, again, according to Heidegger, is because we are essentially temporal beings living in the intersection, living in the present, which is the intersection of the past and the future. And our essential nature as human beings is to be projected towards the future, to be projecting ourselves towards the future. And in our involvement with the future, we are continually involved with tasks, with duties, with things to be done. And that kind of language seems very, very similar to the language used here in this verse spoken by Subrahma. So he uses the Pali word utrastang, which I could translate as being worried or anxious. So that is a kind of being weighed down by cares, by concerns. And those cares and concerns arise because we have tasks to be performed. We are projecting towards first we're entangled in the present. And because we're entangled in the present, we have many responsibilities that fall upon us coming from our past commitments. So those past commitments continue on into the present. And so we have many tasks that we have to take care of in the present. And then we are always moving towards the future. And so we have many tasks, potentially many tasks, many that we don't even know about, many that we can't foresee. But we are, because it's the nature of the untrained mind is to imagine the future, to construct future scenarios. And then we start worrying that we won't be able to fulfill the demands that are placed upon us. And then we get carried sort of way down, burdened by worry. We become anxious. The mind becomes agitated. So that is the nature of the human mind. And the human mind is way down by worry and agitation because we have countless tasks to perform, and we can't foresee with any certainty what the outcome of our decisions are going to be. I might decide to take one course of action, and then if I'm a worrisome type of person, if I take course A, I see all sorts of problems and difficulties lying ahead of me. So course A will lead to one cliff that I'm going to fall over. And then I start to consider the alternative. So instead, maybe I should take course B. And then when I consider course B, that's going to lead to a swamp. And then I'll find to a swamp of what is called quicksand. Then I'll find myself being dragged down into a swamp of quicksand. And so sometimes the mind can become so conflicted by the choices that are facing us and by the worries that we entertain in the mind that we become mentally paralyzed, not able to make useful, beneficial, meaningful decisions. And so the Deva, who's really speaking for human beings, is asking about what is the relief from this worry and this condition of worry and anxiety? What is the state where we're beyond worry and anxiety? And nowadays, in our living situation, I have to say, in this country particularly, there are just so many things to be genuinely worried and concerned about, so that there are always danger of robberies, and so we have to have locks on our doors, and there's so many guns floating around in this country, in the United States, people with guns who are using them irresponsibly, people who are mentally disabled, mentally unstable, who get their hands on guns and go just out into public places and start shooting innocent people. And so the level of worry and anxiety just increases. Okay, so now the Deva is asking he says to the Buddha, if there is any relief from worry and anxiety, please explain that to me. As long as we are living as human beings, there's no way to completely get beyond dangerous situations. Even if we manage to live safely and securely, we're always inevitably facing the prospect of old age, very likely the prospect of illness, falling sick with various illnesses. And then inevitably, even if we manage to live into our ripest old age, our 90s or 100s, with perfect health, still there's the inevitable end, which is death. And so when we consider old age, sickness, and death, that becomes a source of worry, anxiety, agitation. And then we have the loved ones to whom we're attached, our spouses, our parents, our children. And it's a feature of the human condition that the Buddha says it quite, phrases it so clearly, so precisely. He says that it's a theme for constant reflection that I have to be separated and parted from everyone who is dear and beloved to myself. I have to be separated from everything that's dear and beloved to myself, whether it's other human beings or material possessions. All of those are subject to perishing, to pass away, to destruction. And if we hold to them and cling to them, expecting the relationship to last forever, then when the parting takes place, we get overwhelmed by sorrow and grief. And even while we're maintaining the relationship, because of the clinging and attachment, there's an underlying current of worry, anxiety, concern. So it's always beating in the background. It's a little bit like if you listen to a jazz, say a jazz quartet or a jazz quintet, you don't clearly, distinctly hear the sound of the bass playing, but when you're following the jazz composition, you always pick up the rhythm of the piece, and what is guiding the rhythm is the bass that's playing, the bass and the drums. And so that sort of the beat, the rhythm of worry, concern, anxiety, care is so often beating in the background of our outer activities. So we might go out to a party, go out to a restaurant, go out for some entertainment with friends, and we're cheerful, happy. But then sometimes just in those quiet moments when the laughter subsides a little bit, when the entertainers take a break, they kind of, sometimes we just look around the room, and then those thoughts of worry, anxiety just pop up into the mind, even just momentarily, and then vanish. But it's always there in the background. And one of the tasks of doing the Chittanupassana is to bring that kind of concern out into the open so that we could see how the mind is constantly flitting, thinking about the tasks that we have to perform today, what's going to happen at work tomorrow, what are my plans for next week, and so on, or else long into the future. What am I going to do for my work next year, 2 years from now? What am I going to do when I retire? Now I'm retired, what do I do with my time to make it meaningful? So many of these stressful, anxious thoughts coming into the mind. And so the deity Subrahma asked the Buddha if there is any relief from this worry, from this anxiety, please explain it to me. Then the Buddha answers, and he gives a pretty strong answer. He says, not apart from the factors of enlightenment and tapas, an Indian word that I'll explain, not apart from restraint of the senses, not apart from letting go of everything, do I see safety, security for sentient beings. So here the Buddha mentions 4 things in this simple little verse, which are the key to finding relief from this worry, concern, anxiety, and agitation. And to get the proper sense of them, maybe we have to change the order a little bit. First, what's not explicitly mentioned in the verse, but is quite essential to all phases of Buddhist training, is sila, that is, observing precepts. Because the precepts are a foundation, a basis, not only for the higher stages of the practice, but the precepts, the wonderful, beautiful precepts of the Buddha's teaching, give us a basis for gaining some kind of inner tranquility, calmness, and composure of the mind. Because when we act contrary to the precepts, if we act violently in our relations with others, inflicting physical harm on them, even taking life, or stealing, misappropriating the belongings of others, engaging in different types of sexual transgressions against violating our pledges to a faith of fidelity in our relationships, if we become habituated to speaking lies, using intoxicants, engaging in other kinds of unethical behavior, then that unethical behavior creates some undercurrent of restlessness and distress in the mind. Even if we haven't formally taken the precepts, so that we're not actually breaking the precepts that we've undertaken, but just acting in unwholesome, unethical ways inherently creates some disturbance, some distress in the mind, because we're inflicting harm and suffering on others. And at some level, we know that we should not be doing this, that we should be acting in ways that are beneficial to others. And so we start with this foundation of ethical behavior, behavior governed by the precepts of not killing or inflicting physical harm on others, not stealing, taking the possessions of others, not engaging in sexual misconduct, not speaking falsehood, not using intoxicants, not speaking harshly to others, not slandering others, and so forth. Then, when we behave in accordance with these norms of ethical conduct, then we can reflect back on ourselves and we could experience some kind of inner joy, inner happiness, that at least, even though I might not have mastered the higher stages of the path, at least my conduct is virtuous, is ethical. And by practicing this virtuous ethical conduct, I'm at least planting the seeds of good qualities in the mind and in the heart. By not killing, I'm starting to plant the seeds of kindness and compassion. By not stealing, I'm planting the seeds of honesty. By not engaging in sexual misconduct, I'm planting the seed of faithfulness and of restraint. By not speaking falsehood, I'm planting the seed of being trustworthy. And by not using intoxicants, I'm maintaining sobriety and clarity of mind. So that is the basis for this ultimate security. And the Buddha says that when you observe ethical conduct, when you're grounded in sila, then you can reflect on your conduct and you experience what he calls anavajja sukha, the bliss or happiness of knowing that one's conduct is blameless, that nobody can find a genuine ground for blaming or criticizing you for being an immoral, unethical person. And, when you look at our society today, it's really shameful that I would say even the pharmaceutical corporations and the executives, maybe I shouldn't get into this, of the pharmaceutical corporations who are refusing to release the formula for producing the COVID vaccines to so-called developing countries in Africa and Asia, to Eastern Europe, say, even they are responsible for the deaths, needless deaths of so many, maybe hundreds and thousands or millions of people. And not to speak about so much white collar crime takes place with corporations gobbling up other companies. When you, especially even the way these millionaires and billionaires, rather than fulfilling their responsibility of paying their fair share of taxes, they put their accumulations of money into these tax havens, these small island nations, and then they get away with no taxes. That's a kind of stealing. Okay, so when you observe the precepts and live in accordance with the precepts, then you can feel a kind of wholesome pride, a sense of inner dignity, even if one doesn't gain deep samadhi or high deep insights, but you are a person of ethical integrity, somebody who's truly worthy of respect, and that should be a cause for happiness. But now coming to what the Buddha mentions, after observing the sila, now we come to the higher training where he mentions restraint of the senses. So this is the step, a critical step for developing samadhi and insight knowledge, to draw in the senses from their entanglement in the sense objects. So even if you're observing the precepts, but still one could be always entranced with enjoying beautiful forms and listening to beautiful. Actually, I have to say, my own opinion is that there are great works of classical music that, if you listen to them, they can uplift the soul to high levels. But listening to kind of cheap, just merely entertaining music can be disturbing to the mind. Then always pursuing delicious tastes and tactile sensations, getting caught up in the pleasures of the senses. So that becomes an obstruction to developing mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. So one has to learn, especially in the monastic life, to restrain the senses, to see what has to be seen, to hear what has to be heard, but not to let the senses always be pursuing attractive objects and become attached to them and tangled up in them. So one restrains the senses. Then the next word that's mentioned here is tapas, which is a key concept in Indian spirituality, which the original sense, predating the time of the Buddha, was inflicting severe pains on the body through self-mortification, with the idea that by doing so, one is purifying the mind and in that way liberating the soul or the spirit. But the Buddha took over this word tapas and gave it a different meaning. Sort of the key idea under the word tapas is heat, burning. So when one inflicts pains upon the body, that is a kind of burning experience, which is supposed to give spiritual power. But the Buddha uses the word tapas to mean energetic striving, the fervor, the ardor of striving in the practice, especially of meditation. So that is tapas, which could be translated maybe austerity or energetic striving. Then the third term we have here, in Pali, it's boja, which would be translated as enlightenment, but the commentary explains that this is just a metrical shortening for bojjhanga, which means the factors of enlightenment. So here one is engaging in the development of the 7 factors of enlightenment. So one starts off with mindfulness, And then on the basis of mindfulness, one moves to investigation of dhammas, particularly the investigation of the states of mind to distinguish with mindfulness what are the wholesome states, what are the unwholesome states. And then one makes the effort through tapas to remove the unwholesome states and to develop the wholesome states. And that effort is the third factor of mindfulness, which is virya, energy. So with investigation, one distinguishes the states of mind as wholesome and unwholesome. With energy, one removes the unwholesome and strengthens the wholesome. As one does so, there arises the next factor, which is piti, or joy, delight, upliftment of the mind. As the unwholesome factors subside, the wholesome factors gain in strength, and then there comes a kind of uplifting spiritual joy, which is called piti. And then, even though piti is uplifting and joyful, but in the initial stages, it has some degree of excitement in it. But as one persists with developing one's practice of mindfulness, that excitement, that exhilaration starts to settle down, to subside, and then one comes to the next factor of enlightenment, which is tranquility. The mind becomes still and quiet, and then from that stillness or quietness comes samadhi, concentration, and then as concentration deepens, the factor of equanimity becomes increasingly prominent, the balance of mind. And so here we have these 7 factors of enlightenment indicated very concisely in the verse: mindfulness, investigation, energy, joy, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. But then based on that equanimity, one has to develop wisdom or insight by seeing into the true nature of things. And to see into the true nature of things is to see that everything is subject to arising and passing away, that all conditioned things are impermanent. And not only are they impermanent in the sense of rising and passing away, but they're all the distinctive mark of impermanence is the passing or the cessation. So one sees that whatever arises, whatever one possesses, everything in one's world, all of the people that we're involved with, all the things we possess, everything is impermanent in the sense that it's all going to pass away. Everything will fade away. And when one sees into that impermanence, the cessation, the fading away and vanishing of everything that one might cling to, then there comes an increasing detachment from them. Not a kind of cold or indifferent detachment, but a calm, tranquil letting go of everything. The letting go that comes from wisdom, from insight, so that one can live in the world. One doesn't escape one's tasks or duties, but one lives in the world without that oppressive care and concern, without the weight of worry and agitation. And that, the Buddha says, that is the state of safety, of security for living beings, the ability to let go of everything and to float in the world happily, living happily in the present, but without that clinging attachment. Of course, that's a very high level of achievement, but in our own day-to-day life, we have to learn to let go of our attachments little by little, wearing them out by understanding that first of all, that all the people that we're attached to, everything we're attached to has the nature of impermanence. And we too eventually have to pass away, to leave this life, this body behind. And when we have when we have that clear perception of the inevitability of passing, of separation, then we can enjoy our relationships. It doesn't mean that we become completely detached like a stone. We enjoy them, we can appreciate them, we can cherish them. But when it comes time to let go, we're able to let go. And we can undertake our duties and responsibilities, but we do so with a clear mind, with a peaceful mind, doing them happily, not worried whether we're going to succeed or fail. We can recognize sometimes we'll succeed, sometimes we'll make mistakes, sometimes we fail, but we're open to learn from our experience. In that way, we can gradually develop more skills and maybe new skills and maintain a peaceful mind in whatever we're engaged with so that we perform our tasks, our duties, but without this obsessive concern with the results. Okay, maybe just maybe for about 5 minutes. I don't know if there's any questions. Yeah, okay, I see somebody. Okay, I see Damika in Beacon. But if there are questions about the practice that we were doing in the afternoon, save that for 7 p.m. We'll just take some questions on the talk. Okay, Damika? And you have to unmute. Okay.
There's a lot to unpack. And by the way, it's Mark.
Wait, I'm not getting it through my earphones.
I said there's a lot in what you just taught.
Okay, start again.
Sorry?
No, not coming through at all now.
No. I should be coming through. Can you hear me?
Okay, I hear you through the speaker.
Strange. Okay, I apologize. There is a lot to unpack in what you said. So, and I apologize, I can't change the name on the screen. I've been traveling a lot in the past 3 days. My question is this: can we do this in stages, starting with Sila, but dropping the austerity at some point to be able to enjoy spontaneity, to not have a forced austerity?
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, do you hear me through my speaker?
Yes, Bhante.
Okay, yeah, definitely. In fact, like maybe the emphasis in this verse is, I think, sort of pointing to the ultimate goal for those who are ready to undertake that full striving. So, but definitely the practice unfolds in stages, and it should be a kind of joyful, happy practice rather than an oppressive, dry, joyless practice. So that's why I think the Buddha reformulates the idea of tapas. He takes that word tapas, originally meaning a kind of austerity of self-mortification, and gives it a, a different meaning of energetic striving. And certainly to progress in the path of meditative development, one needs energetic striving. One has to make the effort, but it should be an effort that's balanced with calmness and undertaken with joy, with happiness.
May I follow
Does
up
that
on?
make? Does that?
Yes. Can we?
Yeah, I wish.
Ooh.
Yeah, I wish that his voice could come through my headphones.
I apologize.
No, it's not you should apologize. We should apologize. Okay.
Can we use the word discipline instead of austerity?
Yeah, it's just a matter of choice.
Because it requires discipline.
Even the word discipline, I don't like too much. It sounds like there's somebody standing over you as a disciplinarian.
Well,
but I like to use like energetic, the undertaking of using energy or effort.
Flagellation is a hard word too, but it requires.
Okay. We have to move on because. Go on. Okay, we're not getting anything now. Okay, let's see Leo. You have to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me, Andy? Can you hear me, Andy?
I'm hearing from the speaker, not from my headphones.
Sorry about that.
Okay, please go.
Okay, thank you very much for the beautiful Dhamma talking. And you mentioned in the talking, you mentioned a very famous German philosopher. I didn't write down his name and the book name. Could you please tell us again?
Okay. He's actually the most famous German philosopher of the 20th century. His name is Martin Heidegger, spelled H-E-I. Heidegger. Yeah. Okay. H-E-I-D. I can't visualize names like Martin Heidegger, Heidegger, I think. I don't have a pen with me. If I could write it, I'd write it correctly. But if you go into Google and search Martin Hyde, then it will give you automatically the rest.
Okay, the book's name is Present in Time.
So the spelling of the last name is
Okay. I just got it. Heidegger. And the book is Being and Time. But it's quite a formidable volume, written in a very dense philosophical language. I think we're going to have to stop, the Q&A session now, because now it's time for the chanting session. And maybe you could take a 2-minute, 3-minute stretch, do a little bending and stretching, and then we'll have the chanting. But we'll have another session for questions on the practice at 7 o'clock.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. Okay, so to begin, we could put our hands up at Anjali as a sign of respect for the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And we'll begin with Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Buddha. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro puresa dhamma sarati satta deva manusanang Buddho Bhagavati. Namo Tassa Samma Sambuddhassa. Ye cha Buddha Atita cha Ye cha Buddha Anagata. Pachupanna cha Ye Buddha Ahang Vandami Sabada. Nati me saranang anyang Buddho me saranang varam Etena sacha vajena Hotu me jaya mangalang Uttamange na vandehang Padapang suvaruttamang Buddheo kalito doso Buddho kamatutang mamang Buddhang yavani bana pariyantang saranang gacchami. Let me bow to the Buddha. Homage to the Dhamma. Swakato bhagavata dhammo Sanditiko akaliko ehipasiko panahiko pachatang veditabo vinyuhiti. Namo tassa niyanikasa dhammasa. Ye cha dhamma atita cha Ye cha dhamma anagata pachupanna cha ye dhamma ahang vandami sabada nati me saranang anyang dhammo me saranang varang etena sacha vajjena Hotu me jaya mangalam Uttamange na vandeham Dhamman chatividang varang Dhammeyo kalito doso Dhammo kamatutang mamang Dhammang yavani bana pariyantang saranang gacchami. We bow to the Dhamma. Homage to the Sangha. Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho. Ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho. Nyayapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho. Samicipatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho. Yadidang chattari purisa yugani atta purisa pugala esa bhagavato savaka sangho ahuneyo pahuneyo dakineyo anjali karaniyo Anuttarang punyaketang lokasati. Namo tassa atta arya pugala mahasangasa. Ye cha sangha atita cha ye cha sangha anagata. Pachupanna jaye sangha ahang vandami sabada nati me saranang anyang sangho me saranang varang etena satchavajena hotu me jaya mangalang Uttamangena vandehang sanganja duviruttamang sangeyo kalito doso sango kamatutang mamang sangang yavani bana pariyantang saranang gacchami. And bow to the Sangha. Okay, homage to the three symbols. Vandami Chetyang Sabbang Sabbatani Supatititang Saririka Dhatu Mahabodhing Buddharupang Sakalang Sada. Bow. Imaya Dhamma Nudhamma Patipattiya Buddhang Pujemi. Imaya Dhamma Nudhamma Patipattiya Dhammang Pujemi. Imaya Dhamma Nudhamma Patipattiya Sanghang Pujemi. Okay, let's turn to the Metta Sutta. Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Karaniyamatta kusalena yantang santang padang abhisamecha. Saku ujucha sujucha suvachocha samudvanatimani. Santu sakocha subarocha appakichocha sahalukavutti. Sandindriyocha nipakocha appagabbo kulesu anudagittu. Nacha kudang samachari kinchi yena vinyu pare upavadeyum Sukino va kemino hontu sabbe sata bhavanta sukitata ye kinchi panabhutati tasavvatara va anavasesa digava ye mahantava majjima rasaka nukatula Dita va yeva adita, ye cha dure vasanti avidure. Bhuta va sambhave siva, sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitata. Naparo parang nikubeta, nati manyeta kathanchinang kanchi. Vyaro sanapatiga sanya, jnanamanya sadukamicheya. Matayata niyang putang, ayuasa ekaputang anurake. Evam pisa babhutesu, manasang bhavaye aparimanang. Metancha sabbalokasmin, manasang bhavare aparimanang. Udang adocha tiriyancha, asambadang averang asapatang. Titancarang nisinova, sayano ayavatasa vigadamintu. Etang sating aditeya, brahmametang viharang vidamahu. Titincha anupagama silawa, dasanena sampanno. Kame suvineyagedang, nahi jatu gabbaseyang punareti. Blessings after the sutta. Etena satchavajena sotite hotu sabada. Etena satchavajena sabarogo vinasatu. Etena satchavajena hotu te jaya mangalam. Sabityo vivajantu sabarogo vinasatu. Mate bhavatantarayo sukhi diga yuko bhava. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata. Sabba buddha nubhavena sada soti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata. Sabadhamma nubhavena sada soti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata. Sabba sangha nubhavena sada soti bhavantu te. Okay, sharing of the merits. Akasata cha bhumata Deva Naga Mahitika Punyantang Namoditva Chirang Rakantu Sasanam Akasata Chabumata Deva Naga Mahitika Punyantang Namoditva Chiram Rakantu Desanam Akasata chabumata deva naga mahitika punyantang namuditva chirang rakantu mamparam. Okay, the aspiration. Imena punya kamena mame bala samagamo Satang samagamo hotu yavani banapatiya idang me punyang asavakaya vahang hotu sabaduka pamuchatu. We finish by saying sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so that ends the recital for this evening. So we'll get back together again at 7 and continue with our practice. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Bante
Thank you,
Mangala.
Bante.
Thank you so
you,
much.
Mangala.
If you want, you can do 3 half bows with us.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bande.
I want to leave.
Thank you,
To
Bante.
the Buddha. Bow to Bande.